Right, guys, if you're on vertical, the horizontal should be back on. And B.
So are we live again? So that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. I can't believe YouTube are just.
Oh, there's such fannies, really. Honestly,
thing is, that content is on YouTube, posted by other people that aren't the studio.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
so whose content? Why am I getting blocked and they're not?
John, they just don't like you.
They don't like me. I think you're right, mate. I think the Adam and Eve story we're delving into is exactly what we are.
Yeah, a bit. And I mean, I think that we got most of the video. There was only the bit at the end, and we kind of know
the
how
important bit with all the supporters' names on it. Yeah. But never mind that. Is the audio better now? Britt, mate?
Yeah, seems fine.
I think I was on the wrong. Better or good? All good now, says Beats and Types. Right. Okay. Yeah, the stream is on. The stream should be back on horizontal as well now. It's on a different link though. If you want the link, we'll try and post it in the vertical chat. See if that works. Loud and clear, says Nick to read us. So you should now have the choice, people. You have the vertical chat or you have the horizontal chat. Cheers. Good evening, Ed. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. That was a good video, by the way. I'm sorry YouTube nailed you.
Yeah, listen, mate. I'll just I'll recut it. I'll put something over it like blocked by YouTube. And put it back up because it's all audio anyway. I mean, the visuals weren't there to tell a story; they were just there as filler, and I find it quite pathetic. No audio from the visuals, you know, nothing to do. The only thing I used was visuals, and I even reversed it so it wasn't the right way round. So it's just pathetic. It really is. It's pathetic when YouTube's doing stuff like that. For no apparent reason. I'll redo the video, Shalini, and put it up properly. Although it seems to have come out the whole way on the vertical one without any problem.
Yeah, it didn't. I mean, I had the vertical stream running as well, and that was fine. So anyway, show must go on.
Yes, indeed. Right. Okay, but Ed, so this is your favourite subject. Do you want to start off then?
Well, it's a new rabbit hole for me, and it started with pretty much discovering suspicious observers. And the first time I heard about Chan Thomas was from Ben Davidson, and I looked up what I could find of the book, and I mean the book is pretty scary, frankly, and it's one of those things that you'd be inclined to dismiss it if
have you read the book?
Yeah.
The 57-page version.
Yeah, the 57-page version.
Sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to.
No, it's fine. I struggled to get the longer version, and I mean, there's all sorts of issues about CIA classification because the book was supposedly classified, but then I've also heard stories that the book wasn't specifically classified, but was most likely classified as part of some other intelligence officer's effects, where when one of these guys dies, they basically classify pretty much everything that they owned because they were privy to sensitive information. And I don't know there's also Charles Hapgood, who's mentioned in the movie 2012 and was actually a real person. And it's quite an interesting person because he was one of the original catastrophists.
Well, let's
and he's also go on.
Sorry, let's start and go through our little script then, shall we? So
sure.
What we're talking about, Shalini, is the Adam and Eve story, which was a book written by a guy called Chan Thomas and has been allegedly censored, banned, redacted, controlled by the CIA for whatever reason. We'll maybe find out tonight, or then again we might not. So the story of Chan Thomas and his controversial book, The Adam and Eve Story, The History of Cataclysms, represents one of the more intriguing intersections of fringe science, government classification, and conspiracy theories in recent decades. At its centre is a book that purportedly describes catastrophic pole shifts that periodically destroy and reset human civilization. A manuscript partially classified by the CIA for reasons that remain unclear to this very day. This mixture of apocalyptic theory, government secrecy, and scientific skepticism has created the perfect conditions for conspiracy theories to flourish, particularly in our digital age where such content spreads rapidly across platforms like YouTube, TikTok, podcasts, you name it, it spreads it.
So, who was Chan Thomas? He was born in 1920, died in 1998, and he was an American aerospace engineer, writer, and self-proclaimed polymath, whose work has posthumously attracted significant attention in conspiracy circles. We keep bandying this conspiracy circle word. I mean, I know, but it's fine because it's one of those things. If you do mainstream research on it, it always comes back to conspiracies. But
yeah, but that's the mainstream narrative, though. If it doesn't tie exactly into what they want, it's going to be a conspiracy theory, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but that's also the label they use when they want you to stop thinking about things.
Yeah.
But let's see, where are we? Yeah. So despite being referred to as doctor in some circles, there is little evidence that he held a doctorate degree. Thomas made his mark professionally in the aerospace industry, most notably working for McDonnell Douglas, beginning in 1967, where he served on a small research team investigating UFO phenomena. Thomas possessed what his colleagues described as a tremendously innovative mind, and was characterized as a total out-of-the-box thinker. This unconventional thinking extended beyond his professional work. He claimed to possess extrasensory perception abilities and to have made contact with extraterrestrial entities. These paranormal claims, combined with his technical background, created an unusual profile that has added to his mystique in alternative research communities. His most enduring legacy, however, remains his 1963 publication, The Adam and Eve Story, which would later become the center of a decades-long conspiracy theory after reportedly being classified by the CIA. Well, yeah, I mean, because pretty much as soon as something's classified by the CIA, it enters the realm of conspiracy theory.
So he claimed to be an ESPer. What do you think of that?
I think he might have been better off, or he might have potentially been taken a bit more seriously if he hadn't said things like that. But at the same time, if you look at the job that he was doing and the sort of places that he worked, he must have been a bright guy, certainly. And also, what form of sensory perception is the other thing? Yeah. Because, I mean, is he claiming to be telepathic, or is he claiming to be able to remote view or something like that?
Well, we've looked into remote viewing, and remote viewing seems to be a thing that actually seemed to work.
Well, I mean, both the US and Soviet / I don't know if the Russians are still into that stuff. They probably are. But the Soviet government and the Americans in the 1970s, they were both well into it. And I mean, the CIA put a lot of money and a lot of resources into it. So there must have been something there, because there's certain people. Oh, there's one chap, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Yeah, that's one.
That mate said it in the chat. That's
and I mean, these are not. One of the things about Swan is that he was very reluctant to remote view locations where what he was seeing couldn't be verified. And I mean, he did remote viewing of Jupiter and all kinds of crazy stuff. But he had his remote viewing actually confirmed when it was on Earth, and there was things that he saw which they either found out at the time or later found out were absolutely spot on. So it's a bit of a tricky one. Now, it's the same with him having made contact with extraterrestrial entities. I mean, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Certainly, as an engineer working at McDonnell Douglas, that's the kind of organization that would potentially come into contact with lost space tech or crashed aliens or something along those lines. I don't know.
We're getting off topic, so let's
let's keep going.
Yep. So the theories of catastrophe. Thomas's book presents a startling theory about Earth's history, that our planet undergoes regular catastrophic pole shifts, approximately every 6,500 to 7,000 years, and they effectively reset civilization. According to Thomas, these cataclysms are not merely gradual geological events, but rapid apocalyptic scenarios where the Earth's crust suddenly slides over the mantle, causing the poles to shift position by up to 90 degrees in less than a day. The consequences Thomas describes are truly apocalyptic in scale. Supersonic winds would scour the land, mile-high tsunamis would sweep across continents, and volcanoes would erupt en masse. Within hours, the shift would obliterate civilization, leaving only a handful of survivors to rebuild a new Stone Age. Thomas proposed a specific mechanism for these events involving a thin molten layer beneath Earth's crust that periodically becomes destabilised, allowing the planet's shell to slip freely over the core. He suggested the massive ice caps exert a pull on the Earth's axis during these destabilisation events, triggering the catastrophic shifts. Perhaps most controversially, Thomas linked his cataclysm theory to religious narratives, particularly the biblical stories of Adam and Eve.
New donation from Nick Taridus.
We just dropped a donation by Nick Taridus. Thank you, my good man. I appreciate that.
I thought you were going to say we got cut off again.
No. Perhaps most controversially, he linked his cataclysm theory to religious narratives, particularly the biblical stories of Adam and Eve and Noah's flood. He interpreted these as historical accounts of previous pole shifts, placing Adam and Eve's cataclysm approximately 11,500 years ago. There's that number coming up again, 11,500 years. And Noah's flood around 6,500 years ago. This reinterpretation of religious texts and geological terms represents a significant departure from both mainstream scientific and religious understandings. The book makes additional controversial claims, including that Jesus Christ was a scholar who lived among tribes in what is now the Indian state of Nagaland. It sounds like a theme park, doesn't it? I'm going to Nagaland. And he was taken away by aliens after his crucifixion. Of course he was. These assertions, combining fringe religious interpretations with extraterrestrial elements, have further positioned Thomas's work outside mainstream acceptance. Jesus was an alien.
Yeah, it's a bit like Stitching. He starts off really well and then just seems to descend into I mean, it's like if you're trying to get yourself taken seriously, this is not the way to do it. But let's look at the CIA classification mystery, because it's one of the things that people always point to with this book. It's also one of the things that makes it difficult to get hold of. And it's an element that has fueled decades of conspiracy theories. The alleged classification, which is obviously the alleged classification by the CIA. Now, according to various sources, shortly after the book's publication, it was classified and effectively removed from public circulation. In 2013, portions of the book resurfaced through a Freedom of Information Act request, with the CIA releasing what is described as a sanitized version containing only 57 pages of what was reportedly a much longer manuscript. Claims about the original length vary wildly, with different sources suggesting the complete work ranged from 127 to 284 pages. Michael Weaver, who claimed to have met Thomas in the 1960s, reported that the author initially had a 30-page pamphlet, but later published a more comprehensive 212-page book, divided into two sections: the Adam and Eve story, which is 127 pages, and the aftermath of the Adam and Eve story, which is 85 pages. This expanded version was allegedly published in 1993 by Bengal Tiger Press. The fact that the CIA classified the book and later released only a portion of it has become the cornerstone of numerous conspiracy theories. Speculation about what might be contained in the missing pages ranges from evidence of advanced alien civilizations to foreknowledge of impending disasters. One Reddit user claimed, the CIA did go to the Rishat structure in the 1960s and were there for over a week, also classified. It seems we're not the only ones who believe a society of high culture was around pre-Ice Age. The CIA believe that too. Such claims, while unverified, illustrate how the classification has fed into a broader alternative history narratives.
One Reddit user.
Well, that's all it takes. I mean, one Reddit user is enough to mark something as fact.
To kick it off. Yeah. So, from a scientific perspective, Thomas's theories about catastrophic pole shifts diverge significantly from mainstream understanding of Earth's geological processes. While Earth does experience both magnetic pole reversals and minor shifts in its axis of rotation, these occur on much longer timescales than Thomas proposed. Some elements of Thomas's work do align with established science. Earth's magnetic poles do shift over time. Major earthquakes can cause minor alterations to the planet's axis and rotation. There's also evidence of past global flooding events, although these are generally attributed to the end of ice ages rather than pole shifts. However, are we not in an end of ice age period at the moment?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
No, we're at yes.
Yeah. However, the catastrophic scenario that Thomas describes, a 90-degree axis shift occurring in less than a day, contradicts fundamental principles of physics regarding Earth's rotational inertia and stability. The planet's mass distribution and angular momentum effectively prevent such rapid shifts. That's good to know, if it's true. Thomas also claimed that experiments showed decreased magnetic fields caused increased criminality in mice, which he correlated with current crime data. Now, yeah, okay, it's maybe something to consider making a study on, but I don't think it's enough to say, yeah, that's the cause.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that further study isn't needed, but there are all sorts of existing scientific papers which link solar activity to heart attacks and solar activity to stock market movements and solar activity to murders.
Well, I could wholeheartedly agree with you on that, Ed, because whenever there's a full moon on the night shift, we knew that we were going to get, we were going to have fun that night.
Sure. And the thing is that the Earth's magnetic field is what protects us from that crazy energy from the sun. And so if the Earth's magnetic field is wonky or a lot weaker, then a lot more of that energy is coming in. And it's a simple fact that Earth's magnetic field has been weakening since 1856, which was the Carrington event. And since then, there's been this decline, and the decline is logarithmic. So it gets to a tipping point, and then it goes off the cliff. And then the rate of change increases exponentially. And we are already over the tipping point, according to people who understand these things a lot better than I do.
So James Randi, as you remember, the famous skeptic, specifically criticised Thomas's prediction of a future catastrophe affecting Los Angeles, noting that Thomas carefully placed it between the year 2000 and 2500, ensuring he would be safely in his grave by then and unavailable for comment. Despite these scientific critiques, Thomas's work has continued to attract interest, particularly among those drawn to catastrophism and alternative history narratives. That's easy for you to say.
In recent years, the Adam and Eve story has experienced a resurgence in popularity, largely driven by its discussion on social media platforms and prominent podcasts. The conspiracy theory gained significant traction on TikTok, following its mention on Joe Rogan's podcast in January 2023, when Rogan interviewed a self-proclaimed researcher named Jimmy Corsetti about the theory. This renewed interest has led to extensive online discussions, YouTube videos, and articles examining both the content of Thomas's book and the mystery surrounding its classification. For example, a YouTube video titled CIA Classified Book About Pole Shift Mass Extinctions and the True Adam and Eve Story has contributed to spreading awareness of the theory. The popularity of Thomas's ideas stem from several factors. One, the allure of forbidden knowledge, which is exactly what this whole show is about.
Yeah.
The fact that the book was classified suggests to many that it contains truth too dangerous for public consumption. Why else would they classify it? Simple.
Yeah.
They don't just classify things. Oh, let's just classify that bit of the book and just release 57 pages. Number two, connection to broader conspiracy narratives about government secrecy and hidden history. Duh. Three, the perennial fascination with apocalyptic scenarios and hidden cycles of civilization. Four, the intriguing mixture of scientific language, religious interpretation, and alternative history that characterizes Thomas's work. Media Matters for America has criticized the popularization of these theories, arguing they represent a wider framing of climate change, an inevitable catastrophe that is beyond the control of humanity, which considers it to be a form of climate change denial. Oh, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a stretch. I mean, nobody's denying that the climate changes. It changes on a daily, sometimes hour, sometimes minute-by-minute basis. Certainly up here.
It's not stopped changing for 4 billion years.
Exactly.
We barely understand it. And the science is completely politicized. So the notion of the connection between CO2 and warming is completely round the wrong way.
Well, you say that.
Well, I can demonstrate. Okay, you can prove it. CO2 and warming.
Whoa. I'm only winding you up, mate. Don't worry.
I know,
about it.
but don't. No, look. When it comes to that stuff, don't be surprised if I jump down your bloody throat about it.
The problem is, we have to put forward both sides of the argument. And there is a substantial consensus, which I must point out isn't a scientific principle, right? But there is a substantial consensus of scientists that firmly believe that CO2 is a driver for climate change, and we must point that out, So,
and I would also like to point out that when you censor opposing viewpoints, you don't have a consensus.
Well, consensus isn't a scientific principle, so I don't really care, right? But apart from that, what you, the viewer, must do is you must go out and do your own research.
Always.
That's what you got to do.
Always. And I mean, we encourage that. Absolutely. I want everybody to be researching these things.
Yep. Yes, we had northern lights last night from a very weak plasma hit, says Ray. Yeah, well, that's because the magnetic field's it's in the toilet, isn't it?
Really? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was the geostorm, what is it? Magnetic storm readings that we got after the last CME that happened about 3 days ago. Yeah. The storm is much greater than one would expect. It was essentially a tiny little hit from a CME, and it caused a lot bigger. I've forgotten the name of the storm. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. It's
Yeah.
absolutely, completely mental.
Anyway,
Yeah, what
moving
is
on.
it? It's
Inval-
the planet. It's the K index, the KP index. It was a G4 solar storm from a moderate impact.
Right. When assessing the controversies surrounding Chan Thomas and the Adam and Eve story, several key points emerge. The book itself represents an unorthodox blend of pseudoscientific theory, religious reinterpretation, and catastrophism that falls outside mainstream scientific consensus. Again, I don't like the use of the word consensus.
I don't like the mainstream scientific part either.
Yeah, the CIA's classification of the book is factual, although the reasons for this classification remain unclear. This lack of clarity has provided fertile ground for conspiracy theories. Well, yes, it would do, because if you're not going to tell us why, 2/3 of the book are, or more than 2/3 of the book are classified, we'd like to know why. And obviously, if you're not going to tell us, we're going to make stuff up. While some readers find Thomas's catastrophic pole shift theory compelling, it contradicts our current understanding of Earth's geophysics. Yeah, okay. I don't have a lot to say about that. I don't know much about geology. This book, is that a song? I don't know much about geology. What's it?
Biology.
Biology, right. The book has become a cultural touch point for discussions about forbidden knowledge, government secrecy, and alternative history. As one reviewer aptly summarised, I don't think this is all factual. It might be. I give it as much credence as I give anything in that realm. What realm? I think there are plenty of powerful ideas in here that are going to make you think. Ideas about survival, cataclysm, faith, your government. It's a full shit-saw fun house, and I think anyone entertaining it would probably be better for having read it. Well, there you go. You've read it, Ed. Is it a full schizo funhouse?
I wouldn't call it schizo. It's not particularly fun finding out that there might be a catastrophe cycle. And the thing about this book is that if it wasn't for one chap called Ben Davidson, whose research and his daily videos, and I mean, he's written scientific papers and books and all sorts about the physics and astronomy and galactic interactions, because according to him, the whole thing is the whole flipping of the magnetic field, of the magnetic poles, is not just something that's happening on Earth. It's happening right the way from the center of the galaxy, because of the galactic current sheath.
Oh,
well, it's the galactic current sheath that goes up and down like a wave. And we pass through those waves, and one's up and one's down. And that essentially, and we're also detecting there's all sorts of strange things happening at the moment on other planets of the solar system, like the winds on Venus, I think, of reverse direction, or Neptune, one of those. And there's been auroras like a lot further down on some of the bigger planets like Jupiter and stuff. So this is not confined to our little spinning ball of rock. And I mean, I don't know what to make of it. There's part of me that really, really hopes he's wrong. Ben Davidson, I guess Chan Thomas as well. But when it comes to the Earth crust displacement, it's worth remembering that it wasn't Chan Thomas that came up with the idea. There's scientists like Hapgood.
It was actually geologists, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And even Einstein actually suggested that it might happen. There are certain things like tropical fossils in Antarctica that they've discovered.
Oh, yeah, we know that, yeah.
And there's the thing with that is that we've found seashells on tops of mountains, which can be explained by uplift, where the continents kind of going up.
Yeah, yeah.
And you create mountains, and what was once sea becomes top of a mountain. But that doesn't really explain how, if Antarctica has always been roughly at the South Pole.
Would Pangea not explain tropical plants and things
It
and
might
fossils
do.
on Antarctica?
Sure. I mean, I'm not suggesting that there aren't conventional explanations for it.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of Earth crust displacement, which is where the crust moves over the inner layer. I mean, there are scientific theories that explain how that could happen. The mainstream argument against it that I've seen is the amount of energy required would exceed potentially what the sun is capable of producing. But this whole notion about mainstream scientific consensus, as soon as they start talking about that, that's just a way of shutting down arguments and a way of shutting down an interesting discussion, which I think is worth having, because if the planet does have a catastrophe cycle, and if there is a possibility, I mean, according to Davidson, we're at the stage where this could actually happen in our lifetimes, like the next 20 or 30 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, I personally think that people should be given a fighting chance. It's that old argument that you see in every single Hollywood disaster movie that has ever been. If we use 2012 as the example, where they know for years what's going to happen, and they're busy preparing themselves, and they set it up so that they decide who gets to survive. Mm-hmm. And another thing is all of the stories about celebrities building bunkers. I mean, Jeff Bezos is building a gigantic doomsday bunker in the side of a mountain. Elon Musk has alluded to
we shall
stuff
speak
like this
of
as well.
Bezos tomorrow.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I mean, there's Swiss mountain bunkers that they built allegedly during the Cold War, despite the fact that nobody's ever invaded Switzerland. Like high up in the mountains. And if you wanted to survive this sort of cataclysm, the best way to do it would be high up in a mountain, like really super high in a bunker, with that you can just hunker down and ride the whole thing out.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think the problem that I've got with the survival of this catastrophe cycle is that you're going to end up having a world that's rebuilt by people like Musk and Bezos. And
but yeah, we've discussed that before, haven't we? And the question is, would surviving a catastrophe of that nature be of benefit to you personally? You know, maybe to the race. Maybe to the race it would be good if you survived, you know. But I don't think there'd be many call for web developers.
No, I mean, I have other talents as well, but
oh, I'm sure you do. You do.
I mean, the thing is that I suspect that Mother Nature decides for herself, because even if you have all the money in the world and you build this great big bunker and you somehow miss, because it's impossible to calculate exactly what the crustal shift would be, which way the waves would go. I mean, I think Davidson has had a fairly good stab at it.
Yeah, wouldn't it be a lot easier if we had like 1,000-year lifespans? Because then you would have a greater depth of knowledge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These short generational lifespans that we have don't allow us to really have any. I mean, we soon forget things. You know, people are already rewriting history that occurred only 70 years ago. Yeah. You know. So imagine how screwed up things are that happened 2,000, 4,000, 6,000 years ago, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the connections to religious texts, I think writing those off, because according to Thomas, the last 12,000 year cycle, the last big one was the Adam and Eve cycle, which is roughly 12,000 years ago. And the Noah event, which is apparently... it alternates between a big event every 12,000 years and a small event every 6,000 years. And the geomagnetic excursions, we have records for those. That's not just us guessing. There are scientific ways of measuring where the poles were in the distant past.
Yeah. Right. A couple of things from the chat. Ray said, Insta frozen woolly mammoths. And that's right. because there are woolly mammoths, you know, whole families frozen in the actual art of eating. You know, so it's as if they've been suddenly blast frozen. That's quite strange.
Well, there's explanations scientifically for that as well.
Oh, is there?
Well, because the Earth's natural state is actually cold. The warming that we have is, I mean, we have these
but
short
insta-frozen. These things were eating grass and froze to death. What caused that?
Well, it would have to happen within a day for the contents of the stomach to still be
They still had
undigested.
grass in their mouth, mate.
Yeah, it means that it had to happen super quickly.
Yeah.
But they've also found huge concentrations in Alaska of woolly mammoth tusks.
Yes,
in the tundra, where it just makes no sense how you could have that many woolly mammoth tusks in one place. And Randall Carson and Graham Hancock they've done a couple of brilliant shows with Joe Rogan that are worth watching for people who haven't seen them. And there's loads of geological evidence of, they attribute it to the Leonid meteors,
right?
But the timing is the same. It's roughly 12,000 years. And then we have the massive sea level rise roughly 6,000 years ago, which is the Noah event. So one has to kind of separate what we can measure and prove geologically and astrophysically speaking. For example, watching the sun and watching our own magnetic field. What we know is going on, which is that the geomagnetic poles are moving.
Yeah.
We have loads of beachings of whales and birds going in the wrong direction and all that kind of thing. And whales navigate via the Earth's magnetic field. And it's one of the other things that gets me is the stories from pre-flood of the Noah story, where God sent the flood to punish humans because humans had gone all out of control and were all a bit crazy. Now, if you look around at Clown World, if we had another catastrophe tomorrow, and there were survivors, and they were like, because the people that are most likely to survive something like this are hunter-gatherers and people who live much closer to nature because they just have more survival skills. And the interactions that those people have had with our modern society, if there was a cataclysm, those guys would probably say that the gods destroyed us because we'd gone all. It's like men wanting to be women and cutting their bits off and all the other crazy shit that's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, do you want to?
There's something about it that resonates.
Do you want to do the conclusion and then we'll go to Nectaridis' question?
Sure. Right. So the story of Chan Thomas exemplifies how the intersection of fringe science, government classification, and digital age information sharing can create enduring conspiracy narratives. While the scientific community largely dismissed Thomas's theories as pseudoscience, the mystery of why the CIA classified his work continues to fuel speculation and interest. Whether viewed as a provocative alternative perspective on Earth's history, or simply as an interesting cultural phenomena, the case of Chan Thomas demonstrates the persistent human fascination with catastrophe, hidden knowledge, and the cyclical nature of civilization. In a world increasingly concerned with climate change, geological instability, and uncertain futures, perhaps it's not surprising that a Cold War era book about civilization ending cataclysms continues to capture the imagination of contemporary audiences. The truth behind the classification may be more mundane than conspiracy theorists hope, but until a full transparency is achieved, the Adam and Eve story will likely remain a compelling mystery at the fringes of science, religion, and government secrecy.
Indeed. Yes, Nectaridis is still on the vertical chat, which is fine. You know, there's no problem there. And Nectaridis comes up with the point that Ben Davidson is coming up with, which is it's a solar micronova that he worries about. Now, did you see Ben's tweet today?
Yes. Yeah. And there's Yeah.
So I'm nervously awaiting
Yeah.
information from what he said.
Well, this is the thing about Davidson is that, okay, he's not, I don't think he has any formal scientific training, but I think some of the best scientists in Earth's history haven't had any formal scientific training. And just because you don't go to university doesn't mean you can't learn things.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that your opinion is valid if you do the research. And Ben, I mean, he does a little 3-minute video every single day. And he's just watching the sun. And he says himself that he's looking for evidence that proves him wrong. And with more time that passes, he's only finding evidence that proves him right. And a lot of mainstream scientists are actually catching up with some of his ideas, particularly about astrophysics.
So Shalene's asking what did he teach? Well, he got privy to an academic paper, I think, that's getting released today. So he's on an embargo not to talk about it until after it's released. But he obviously, I think, judging by his tone, confirms his worst suspicions about the possible solar micronova.
Yeah, I mean, it could. I mean, if we're going to speculate, there's any number of things it could be. It could be confirmation of new positions of the poles, confirmation of how fast the magnetic poles are moving, new solar physics, which proves micronovas. Some astronomers found a micronova somewhere, because it's, I mean, there's this idea that the sun can go pop. I mean, supposedly it happens through an accretion of dust from like galactic dust.
Yeah.
And a solar minimum when the sun is less active and its fields are weaker, and you get this accretion of dust on the surface of the sun, which then through some sort of electromagnetic kick from the galaxy then blasts it off, and we end up getting loads of material. And I mean, there's evidence of it. He says that there's isotopes at the level of the cataclysm that Randall Carlson talked about, which could only have come from the sun. And there's evidence on the dark side of the moon that the Chinese found, was it Chinese or the Indians, found a while back, which again, I think they found iron or something. They found some sort of element on the dark side of the moon that could only have come from the sun. And it was literally something that's blasted off the sun. We have these regular 12,000 year geomagnetic excursions, which also align with species extinctions and that kind of thing. We have all of the evidence of ancient human civilizations that archaeologists want to ignore, which is the problem that I've got with the mainstream scientific consensus, because even if the mainstream science is presented with something like a giant buried like Stonehenge type thing, Göbekli Tepe, they're not interested in excavating it. They're like, no, we're going to leave it for 150 years. We'll let future archaeologists deal with it. It's like, what kind of archaeologist finds something like that that's 12,000 plus years old and completely rewrites our perception of where we came from? Doesn't make sense at all. I mean, it's the same as how we've talked about in multiple shows where that humans go from hunter-gathering to Sumeria, and they suddenly have laws and plumbing and trade and money and all these kinds of things, and it just springs up out of nowhere. I mean, bullshit. Sorry, I mean, that's just nonsense.
Yeah.
So, but it's the fact, it's something that I said in the conclusion, that it's the fact that these things are hidden. It's the fact that the CIA classified this book, only declassified a section of it, and won't tell anyone why it was bloody classified or what's in the supposedly what's in the classified section. It's I don't know why they keep that veneer of mystery about it, because if the whole thing is just nonsense, then just release it. Let us make our own minds up. And if it's not, and if there's something that they're trying to hide, why are they trying to hide it?
Yeah.
And once you start picking away at those threads, the only one that's left that makes any sense is that they're somehow scared. They don't want people to find out because they want to be the only ones with the knowledge so they can save themselves and let the rest of us just die in a 1,000-mile-high tsunami.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
It's a difficult one because we're talking about the end of civilization as we know it, which is not a nice thought. What's worse is that there are people out there who know about it and are busy getting ready to protect themselves.
Yeah, but are they even really thinking they'll be able to protect themselves? So they're just thinking, you know what? If we tell people, there'll just be a mass breakdown of society, and everything will be shit.
Well, yeah.
So do we just want to try and hold it together, just in case it doesn't happen?
Well, the thing is that if we had a whole of human society effort to try and save as many people as possible through every means that we could think of, like mountain bunkers, arcs, okay, maybe we couldn't survive the whole thing, but there are places on Earth that are going to be less affected by this thing. Africa, for example, which, because of its height.
Right. It depends. Right. But the problem is, the more people you have alive, the more food you need to feed them. And food's going to be a premium because there's going to be a nuclear winter effect. You're going to have to start growing stuff from scratch again. There won't be there'll be very few animals around. You know, it's just going to be you know what? Just stand there and watch the wave come in.
Well, it's that Charlie, and as long as you got, I don't know, some LSD or just a load of good wine or just something nice to smoke or whatever, and just, I mean, that's my plan.
Kick back.
Yeah,
put on some nice music
But there's a spiritual aspect to this as well, because there are theories that these 6,000, 12,000 year cycles match with the Indian yugas. And we're in the Kali Yuga at the moment, which is the bad one. The next one is the Golden Age, and that there's some sort of spiritual aspect to this whole thing as well, where people potentially have the ability. I'm not saying that we can transcend the body into pure energy or anything like that, but there are all sorts. Well, actually, that is one of the religious kind of things that I've.
Right, so Ray says, if the world knew what's coming, people would mass move to inland mountainous regions. Well, would they, though? Would they? Right, first of all, what are they going to live on? Because inland mountainous regions have got nothing to live on. So the problem is, if you move hundreds of thousands of people, millions even, to inland mountainous regions, you're not going to have any food for them. So people are going to start starving straight away.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're talking Earth crust displacement, then people that were in the northern hemisphere are going to be near the equator, and I think Antarctica ends up at the equator. Antarctica and Greenland end up at the equators, and that after the next cataclysm, the new North Pole is what's now South America or something crazy.
Jesus Christ, that means Scotland's going to be nearly on the equator. It's going to be too hot.
Pretty much.
You never get a happy medium in Scotland. It's either too cold or too hot.
Yeah, and it's the dangerous part is because if the Earth's crust displaces and moves, then all the air and the water stays where it is, which is why you have these tsunamis. But you also have 1,000-mile-an-hour winds.
So Nectaridus says go underground, right? And that's fine, Nectaridus, but The only problem is you've got to go underground at great height. Because if you go underground at low level, you're going to get flooded out.
Or buried under miles of
Mud.
silt.
Yeah. So all these people that are building bunkers in, like Utah or where is it, Omaha? Not Omaha. Is it Nebraska or? Oh, I don't know.
Nevada.
It's one of the American states, but if they're not building them at height, they're wasting their time.
Yeah. And it's also in which direction the waves go. Because if you build on the other side of a mountain to which way the waves are going, then you're probably going to be all right.
Yeah.
But it's going to be random if it does.
It's a lottery. Happen. It's a lottery, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I just think that these things shouldn't be classified. If we had a society that worked properly, that had leaders that actually gave a shit about their people, and we didn't have this elite class of parasites that just seem to suck the blood out of everything else. I don't know. And I mean, if it's this 1,000-year death cult or 6,000-year-old death cult that we've got running the planet that is going to survive, I'll take my chances with the afterlife. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I don't know. I've also wondered whether the weakening of the Earth's magnetic field might give humans extra abilities, because if it controls emotions and stuff, I don't know. Maybe there's I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
No, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at Beats and Tapes. He says he lives on a hill, so you should be okay. Yeah, yeah, okay. You hang on there, mate. 1,000-foot waves, 1,000-foot waves, not 100-foot waves, Fluffy. 1,000-foot waves.
Yeah, I mean it's proper day after. Well, not so much day after tomorrow, but 2012.
Deep impact style waves.
And I can't see a few arcs that the Chinese may or may not be building to be much good, but. Ultimately, the main thing is that humanity survived. I mean, we've been around a long time. We've definitely survived
some
at
people
least two of these cataclysms. But it also explains how it explains things about the pyramids.
Yeah.
For example, the water erosion and the fact that it looks very much like the pyramids at Giza were underwater for a rather long time.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Sahara was once green and pleasant and isn't anymore, which is also weather patterns. I mean, there's multiple explanations, but the fact that these debates are shut down and said, oh, it's conspiracy theory, the CIA classified it, you're all just kooks, we're not talking about it, this is not how we understand geophysical processes, like we actually understand exactly how the planet works. I mean, that's the arrogance of modern science.
Well, there you go.
And I mean, ultimately, we're not going to know until that wave is coming. But
yeah,
I mean, for people that are interested in this or worried about it, whatever, just follow Ben Davidson, because he's all over this stuff.
You know what, people? There's only a certain amount of things that are worth worrying about, and things that you can't really change.
Yeah,
are probably not one of them. I mean, fine to be entertained by this kind of stuff, and to look into it and whatever, if you think, and if you want to go and think that you can make a difference and change people's minds and save loads of people, then by all means go for it. But if you're like me and think, well, que sera, sera, as they say, whatever will be, will be. Yeah.
I mean, I find it fascinating. I think it's a fun and interesting intellectual exercise. And I don't know. I mean, ultimately, it's a good lesson in enjoying every single day and every single moment that you've got, and making the most of the time that you do have on the planet. Because ultimately, we're all going to die. Nobody's going to be here forever.
Yeah, nobody's getting off this planet alive.
Exactly. And it's what's more important is what you do with the present moment.
Yeah.
And if you're living a fulfilled and happy life, then just enjoy that and make the most of it. And what comes tomorrow will come tomorrow.
That's a great point, Ed. And if you're living a fulfilled and happy life out there, how about dropping me some cash as I could try and live a fulfilled and happy life too?
Well,
remember,
he does deserve it. He puts all the effort into those videos and then gets banned by YouTube.
Yeah. Anyway, like, share, subscribe, all that nonsense. And we'll be back tomorrow night for what promises to be another episode of complete and utter madness that is the world in 2025. Because it's nuts, isn't it? It really is.
Oh,
nuts.
It's mental. It is completely mental, and it's just getting more mental. And there are days that you just think, "I'll roll on the cataclysm."
Yep. So everyone, take care out there, and thank you for coming along tonight. It's been a blast, and it's been great for you. Oh, pardon.